just made, because a lot of bookings that happen now, photographers go in to see art directors and editors less and less.
Yeah, exactly.
So their portfolios are being viewed online,
Yeah.
and no more actually physical portfolios. So they're not in a position to judge you based on what you like, what you might be like on a 2-week trip away somewhere obscure.
So it's become harder and harder, really, for a photographer to actually express that personality.
Well, on that front, yes, but at the same time, then it becomes more and more about the work, or just the work,
Right.
and just the end result. So, good or bad, I don't know.
But my experience is, I know you then started to work as a fashion photographer. My experiences of the fashion industry are that it's quite a particular place to have to work within, where personalities and relationships are absolutely essential. Would you agree with that?
I don't know, completely. I mean, the people you meet and the people you get to know in those early stages and the people you hang out with and the way you dress and the way your hair is and your attitude are all part and parcel of what gets you involved in fashion.
Right.
You know, so it's always about connections. It's always about, you know, those sorts of things.
So you made some good connections early on. How did you find when you then decided to go out on your own as a photographer? How did things work for you?
It was fun. I was lucky. I was really, really lucky. I mean, I got some really, really good jobs straight away, partially because of the connections I'd made as an assistant. So I think if you are an assistant and you are meeting fashion editors and art directors and editors, and you do get on, then that's a definite stepping stone to going on and doing your own stuff. Because at that point, if they do like you, and, you know, and if your work's not completely crap at that point, there's a good chance they'll give you some small jobs to begin with, and then you'll go on from there. But
I think the traditional route to success in fashion photography has always been to assist and to work your way up.
I think so.
But
yeah.
Now with digital photography, less and less photographers do work with assistants.
Well, yeah.
So it's become that much harder. Do you think it's still a possible route?
Oh, I think it's a definite route. I think it's a definite route, because even if you're shooting digitally, I mean, if you're in the studio, chances are you're going to want to have an assistant who's sort of helping you with your lighting, helping you with the physical aspect of the shoot, and you might have a digital operator as well. You know, but it just depends how big the shoot is and what the budget is.
And what do you think, as a fashion photographer in particular, how important do you think is the photographer's interest in fashion, and how the photographer actually keeps up to date with what's going on, with latest trends?
I mean, fashion is all visual, you know, so largely visual. So if you're a photographer, that's just an extension of what you do, what you are. So, I mean, it helps, of course, to have an interest in fashion, to be, I wouldn't say fascinated by it, but certainly, you know, involved in it on some level, above and beyond just the photographic. So if you spend some time, you go to some shows, you go to see some ready-to-wear collections or the couture collections, and then you really just, you know, sort of start stimulating your mind from a fashion point of view, then I think that helps you photographically. And plus, if you go to see all that stuff, of course, most of which you can see online now anyway, all of that gives you ideas for future shoots, concepts for little stories that you might want to put together.
Yeah, because I think that sense of narrative is a really important element within fashion photography, and a lot of people, until they actually start shooting fashion, don't realise how important it is to create a narrative over those 8 or 10 pages.
Yeah.
That's about all you're going to get.
Well, I guess if you're lucky. I know, a little story, I mean, a little scenario that runs through your photographs is really, really important. Of course, quite a few art directors will interrupt that scenario.
Well, I have to admit, I have interrupted that on a number of occasions.
But it's necessary sometimes.
But it's that whole process, isn't it? That, again, a conversation that we've had throughout the day is the importance of teamwork.
Yeah.
And fashion is a great example where teamwork has always been important.
It's everything. I mean, you know, you can be a dictator on set, but it won't get you very far. It'll get everybody to hate you. And ultimately, the end result won't be there. I mean, if you work with a great stylist, great hair and makeup, and good models, and you create an aura or a sort of a complicity between you, then you'll get a better result at the end of it all, because because you're all working together and you're all, you know, it's a joint project.
Yeah. I mean, I think that seems to be increasingly the case nowadays with hair and makeup and stylists, and the importance of good styling. I quite often get people showing me fashion work where the styling and actually the hair and makeup is actually what's letting down the image, and it's very difficult to explain that to someone starting out in particular. That what you've got to do is keep the styling simple, because it's very easy to want to be Tim Walker and come up with huge concepts.
Yeah,
but they're not easy to do.
They're not easy to do, and they take a lot of people to pull off. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you need set decorators, you need, you know, all sorts of other ingredients. So, you know, in that sense, simple is a good way to start.
Yeah.
You know, simple and clean, and you know, you come up with very good ideas from the outset, and you'll be off.
And how have you found it? I mean, your career as a fashion photographer, as I said, has been 20 odd years.
Yeah,
20 odd years. How have you found it through that time? Because fashion has changed dramatically. The way in which fashion is viewed has changed dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. I don't know that really at source it has changed that radically when it comes to fashion photography. As you say, the way it's seen, the way it's consumed is very, very different.
Yeah.
I mean, it all used to be very effectively 2D prints, you know, in any shape or form, whether it was billboards or magazines or whatever. But I think it, you know, at source, I don't really think it's changed that much, to be honest. I mean, I think that, you know, fashion photography, a good photograph in fashion is a good photograph then, now, or tomorrow.
But it does seem to be an awful lot of fashion photography, like you're saying with Guy Bourdin. He's looking backwards for reference material, to looking backwards in classic for approaches.
But I think any photographer or any artist will obviously have their own references, their own source materials, their own whether they're literary, visual, sculpture, painting, whatever, just on the street. It doesn't really matter as long as, you know, you take it, you sort of synthesize